Welcome to the Creative Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lopez Jr. Follow us on Twitter at CreativeCoach47 and on YouTube at Creative Coaching Podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks a bunch for listening. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Good to hear from you, man. What's going on with you?
Nothing much, man. Raining here in San Antonio, Texas, in northern Mexico, if you will, and just getting ready to celebrate the 4th with the family. But, man, I appreciate you coming on and making some time and taking some time to be with us, man.
Man, listen, thanks for reaching out. I'm ecstatic about getting on and being able to discuss everything that comes through the two of us. And, you know, like you said, most people are not going to do this type of stuff on 4th of July, but, you know, the calendar doesn't wait for the work, you know, just got to do it.
No days off, right? I guess from that perspective,
Literally.
Downtown with our family. Yeah, no days off. So, Coach, I want to start off like you started off your book, an introduction to the game. How were you introduced to the game, Coach?
Yeah, man, I think for me, it was old school in front of your building, right? Like right in your neighborhood in front of your building, we had a fire escape and we used to play on the fire escape. Anybody from in the city that know about fire escapes, you pull a ladder down and you're just shooting the basketball on the ladder, right? And we kind of went from that, and then we went to the crate, right? And we would shoot the ball on the broken milk carton situation, the milk crate. We'd cut it up, hang it up, and we shot there. And a lot of the stuff that I started was mostly from that space of, hey, you dribbling the ball on the concrete, you're dribbling around, you're trying to figure things out, you're playing with your friends, and then that kind of escalated to you get old enough and you get to go to the park. And when you get to go to your local park, you know, you're still playing with your friends and different neighborhood guys, and you just learning the game from that lens. And then obviously you start to get better, and it leads you out of the park onto teams and into different environments. But I think the best time I had was kind of like, hey, man, just the joy of the essence of the game, where it wasn't necessarily the rules and regulations, but more so just, hey, what's the joy that's coming out of it, and who are the people that you're participating with in this journey. So it's funny, I'm just always remember shooting that ball and playing like game 5 on that ladder, right? And then maybe, you know, playing a big game with 21 or like 10, 11 of your neighborhood kids, like on that milk crate. And then eventually you took that stuff to the court. And then obviously you get to that space where you're trying to figure out how to get from the little court to the big court with the better guys and the older dudes. And, you know, what do you got to do, you know, to get to that place? You know, it's like a rite of passage. Every step matters, right? So never been a kid who kind of grew up in the whole camp scene or anything like that, or the training. Like, obviously times change. I'm a little older. But yeah, that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. No, Coach, I like what you're talking about. I mean, just the simplicity and the beginnings, small beginnings, humble beginnings. You can't get any more humble than a milk crate, bro. Like, you really can't. I remember going to one of our hoods down here, and the kids had a rim on a tree, and the tree, its roots were coming out. You couldn't even do a proper layup because you trip over the root. And so, yeah, I get that completely. But those are those times, right? Stress-free, just for the love of the game. And that's where it sparks, right? It sparks your love for it. And then you dive deeper and fall deeper in love with it. And that's a great thing, Coach. Now, I want to ask you about your experience by those who you were coached by, because that's really important. Like, how we coach is how we were coached, right? So to speak. How when you were coming up, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, man. I mean, one of the coaches I'm always gonna remember, like, is this guy named Mr. Woods. Like, he was my first real coach. The one thing that separated Mr. Woods was, like, at the time of local basketball, he would never let us play our grade as a team. So if we were like 13U, we would play 15, 16, 17s, just everything that was opposite 13U, right? And, you know, same thing when we were 12. And I'm not going to lie, I mean, we lost a ton of games, but without understanding what he was trying to accomplish, he took us from borough to borough to borough, and we were playing, I want to say, at that time, tournaments, like local tournaments. We were playing like 40 tournaments in the summertime. And Mr. Woods was teaching you competition, was teaching you, you know, how to accept, you know, losing, but get back up and fight, right? How to figure out how to play against older kids, how to figure out the IQ of the game and not just the physicality of the game. Like, I thought, and we would literally be on the subway, right? Like we would get on the subway, go play in Brooklyn, then we would get back on the subway, play a game in Queens, get back. We were playing like 3, 4 games in a day. And for a local kid with nothing to look forward to back at the crib,
Yeah.
I was loving that, right? Like you was out of trouble, you was with some friends, and honestly, at that time, wasn't really thinking about the fact that we was losing. I was more so like, wow, we're playing really good kids, and they were older, right?
Yeah.
So, hats off to him because if you think about the way the game is designed, that guy was giving you so much of his real life time, right? He would go to the local laundromat, wash the t-shirts, dry the t-shirts, and you would have to switch like 6 t-shirts in a day, right? So
Wow.
like not understanding everything at 12, 13, you don't understand what this guy's doing. But as you get older, you look back and say, hold on, this dude was doing all the laundry. He was jumping on and off the train to all of these different boroughs, knowing we weren't going to win a game today, right? Like he was given at minimum 6 to 12 hours a day on a
Wow.
Saturday, on a Sunday. And still, we're practicing during the week. But he knew, like, hey, I'm not even trying to win. I'm just trying to prepare these kids for whatever their futures were. So I think like shout out to Mr. Woods. I mean I haven't seen him forever, but he was so advanced for his time, right? In a day
Yeah.
and age where playing up is always a large conversation, but at that point in time, like I was fortunate enough where he sped up my maturation. Like you turning the ball over and it's not the end of the world, right? Like you're missing a pull up jumper and it's not the end of the world. Where he kind of was like always having you on go. But one of the things I think the playing up thing for that energy, you never could let your guard down. You could never get comfortable. You were always, going against adversity and trying to figure out this maze. So we were small, running around playing against these bigger dudes all the time, but
Yeah.
it definitely eliminated the art of being scared or anything like that, or fear or worry. You just was like, look, I'm hoping. Which, if you look at the way the local parks are designed, you playing against the older 16, 17-year-old kid at 12 allowed you at 14 to say, hey, I'm okay playing against this high school kid. And then when you were a freshman in high school, you already used to playing these older dudes already because of Mr. Woods, right? Like we didn't win a ton, but the sacrifice that he made is priceless as a human being, right? Like now that I look at the journey that I went on and those kids that were around me, like we couldn't have gotten a better journey than that other than playing on, let's just say you was on a team that was winning 30 games and losing one with a stacked team at 12. I'm not sure you learned this but as much as you could, but for Mr. Woods, like, man, that was a lot of time that man gave up. And he wasn't a spring chicken. He was not 20 years old, you know? So like I said, shout out Mr. Woods, man, like just having a concept, a theory, and a way of going about his business, and ultimately, sacrificing himself for the betterment of these young kids.
Yeah. And I think it mirrors now, you know, fast forward to where we're at right now. Your work as an executive director of ProScholar Athletics, who, if anybody's familiar with the EYBL, that it's synonymous with the EYBL. I know a lot of coaches watching will know who you are and know what you're about. And being an executive director means I'm over, other coaches, the logistics, things of that nature. And so somebody like Mr. Woods was a great example of how to wear different hats and
Mhm.
spend time that you may not see back in, you can't get time back, right, coach? So at the
No,
end of the day, it's like, it's an investment. You don't need it back because you invested it, you gave it away. And that's probably the great, great tool for every coach listening or watching to understand, like, just give what you have and don't expect anything in return other than whatever it is you feel like you needed from the situation without somebody saying, here you go, or thank you. Because you're not always
Mhm.
going to get that. You're not. And it prepares people, like you're talking about, your experience. You learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable
Sir.
and, constantly having to scratch and claw for things. That's a real life lesson. And if that wasn't his intent, I wouldn't believe it. I'm sure
Yeah.
that was his intent for sure. So that's great stuff, Coach. I really appreciate you talking about that. Now, I want to talk about your book,
Let's
your
do
new
it.
book. That is,
Thank you.
it's called it's called Here Are the Answers: A Roadmap for Navigating Success in the Business of Youth Basketball. And so, as you talk about somebody like Mr. Woods, I'm sure he would like to have gone back and read this book, but man, he did it his way, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't have to look the same, but it did. As I read your book, I see it. I see the model of Mr. Woods in this book. I can see his influence on it, and how you're guiding coaches that are part of youth basketball. Because it is, you love the game, you love working with young people, but at certain levels, it's a business. And you really have to see that for what it is. Love the game, learn the business, right? So, on that note, when you talked about it, because it has 45 entries through this book, and each entry is like a lesson to learn. And for me, as I read it, I'm like, okay, yes, collaborating with parents, mentors, handlers, NCAA paperwork, things of that nature. I read it all, and I'm like, man, when I did AAU ball, man, I would have loved to have had this. And so
Mhm.
anybody who's thinking about, working with a group or is actually working in a group right now, I recommend this book, highly recommend it. Because like we're talking about, even how you were coached in entry 12, you talk about it takes a village, right? And that's what it takes. It literally takes a village, all stakeholders, a holistic approach to helping these young people. And I see that you're doing that. There's been a lot of success in your program. And like I said, you think of EYBL, there's certain teams you think of. I could name some off, but I don't want to be that dude. PSA, I know that. You know what I mean? Like I say, okay, I know who they are. I don't know who Coach Williams is, but now I do. And man, that yeah, I get it. It makes sense now. It's adding up. And
Thank
so
you.
it's great stuff. Now, I want to ask you, who influenced you to go into coaching?
Yeah, man. I would say this is a crazy answer. It's a young lady named Marsha Scipio. She's a life mentor. She came in my life probably around 16 years old, and she's a Yale graduate, a pastor. Just has done. She did my wedding. She's just a phenomenal human being, and I think not from the basketball lens, she influenced me to be like, hey, go get with kids, right? Help kids, help people, be a good Samaritan, be a good human, right? Like look at the world outside of just dribbling the basketball. So I think at a time in my life where you can have anyone come in and guide your life and try to say, hey, go right or go left when your parents aren't as involved day to day. My mom was, phenomenal mother, doing the best she can. We come from, government assistance and that upbringing, but it worked, right? She raised myself, my two brothers, and my sister. Um, and I think what came into that play was Marsha. She was the person that was like, nah, like you got to look at, not just what you could do on the court. Take a step back from that, and let's look at your academics. Let's look at your structure as a person. Let's look at your how you carry yourself, how you move in this world. Let's start to learn these things. And her message was consistent without her saying it, which was like, you got to be someone that gives back. You got to be someone that reaches back. You got to be someone that looks out for the next generation. As she's looking out for me, she's implementing those things. But like I said, at that time, 16, you just like, man, this lady's crazy. Like, she don't want to let me play basketball. She's always trying to get me to do this studying. We're working on applications. We're working on grammar. We're doing all this academic stuff. Um, and like I said, if you look at the way the landscape is today, I would say like, wow, I got lucky that the person that was guiding me at her tender age, she probably when I met her, she probably was like 23 years old,
Oh
but she
wow.
was so advanced in the world and understood like academia and what it could do for you and your life after sports. So like I said, she it's a weird way of getting into coaching, but I would say she influenced me to deal with coaching just from a hey, use coaching to help lives, right? Like, don't
Yeah.
worry about the wins and losses necessarily. Don't worry about the X and O's. Like, hey, you have a gift to help assist kids that look like you, move like you in this space that you grew up in. So I think having her kind of like navigate my process to, hey, you need to look into boarding school, you need to look into this type of college, you need to look into this type of profession. When just always having that consistency and purity of the answers that I was looking for at that time, coming from someone that I knew like, hey, she doesn't even understand basketball. So
Yeah.
there's no way that she's trying to have me do these things from hey, this is gonna help your basketball, resume. So I would say Marsha Scipio forever, like just her DNA and who she was and who she is, excuse me, and what she brings to the table just off the court. And even if you look at the game, I try to tell the guys, yo, you're off the court way more hours than you're on the court. So you're
For
gonna
sure.
get judged, right, and who you are as a human way more off the court than you're on the court. So I got lucky to have that type of person amongst others, right? Like shout out one of my other mentors, Curtis Washington. You know, he was big on basketball and but also big on academic and how you carry yourself as a man. So I was very fortunate that in getting into coaching, the people that I was able to encounter have been so A1 that it's helped. It's helped. And then you could always find people to discuss X and O's with.
Yeah, Coach, I like what you're talking about, and shout out to Marsha for that because people are the priority in my life, right? Because I have my hands in so many different avenues of working with kids, teenagers, adults. Because when you're working with these kids, you're working with their families too, and you talk about that too in entry two, collaborating with parents, right? I think that's really important for all of us. I mean, all stakeholders involved, but as coaches, we have to, whether you're a college coach or a high school coach or an AU coach, collaborating with parents is everything. Because once you have that buy-in, and you talk about it, they may nag you a little bit, but there's ways to kind of calm them down and work with them. And I love the way you're like, in my mind, I've always told people when I was an athletic director, I told people I can have a mom come in and yell and growl at me like a lion, and I'll have her purring like a kitten when she walks out.
Uh,
And so like that to me, I saw it in the book, and I'm like, man, this is great. But the top priority when it comes to people, and especially young people, is like you said, academic standards,
yeah.
and not just no pass, no play. Like, no, what are you looking at for the future? What is it looking like for you long term? Are you going to qualify? Because then you got the NCAA clearinghouse, and you got all these things. So it's really, really important. And you run through this stuff, Coach, and that's what I love about this book. Is it goes straight to the point and cuts to the chase. Is what I wanted to say. Now, what were some of the greatest obstacles that you've had to overcome in your career, as far as working with young people and understanding what the focus, keeping the main thing the main thing? What were some of those obstacles, Coach?
I mean, I think right now, man, you look at certain things and you're like, how do you in this space not just be labeled grassroots or not? How do you manage to do things to your point, you want to be great at it, right? But also
Yeah,
not be in a box, right? Like, how do you in this space allow people to see you from a different lens other than just, hey, this guy's all basketball versus, hey man, I'm into poetry and I'm into fishing and I love canoeing and I love, all of these different things. And then be able to not, in a sense, not lose that other power that people expect of you, but you also are trying to showcase to the generation like it's okay to be into photography, it's okay to be into music, but then the adults at times can look at that like it's your kryptonite or oh man this person is getting softer or he's losing the edge and oh man why are you doing that or you're expanding and you're making it harder on us and it's all of these different dynamics that are sinking into this space that from a holistic approach for you as a person, you have to be very strong minded. You have to, have some tough skin. And I think one of the things for me has always been, hey, how do I continue to have tough enough skin to walk away and not be inside the box and continue to show for better or for worse, continue to attempt to show the next generation that while you're trying to be great at this game, you can also go do other things. You can get into music, you can get into art, right? And I've been able to be around guys in our programs and watch those guys, you know, um, watch those guys experiment and play around with that. Like one of the best things I seen was like Amari Spellman was big on art and drawing, and most people wouldn't know, and they would ask like, "Hey, what's your hidden talent?" And the dude is awesome in drawing, or like you would watch a kid like Naja Hunter, he would get into different photographies, and Tyson Etienne that was at Wichita State was able to do like his own museum, and he's big on photography, and he wrote a book, right? Like
wow.
watching these journeys and see these kids behind the scenes and eventually go into the world and showcase like hey I'm really good at this and us being a collective group of men to say yeah you're good at it, do it on the weekends. Like there's a kid Jaden Reeves who went to Dartmouth, like I call him Bobby Fischer, he's so good at chess, right? So
Yeah,
like having being able to have fun and not be scared to do other things while you're doing grassroots, right? And I
yeah,
think writing the first book, second book, like all of this stuff, I want to be the example at times for the kids to be like, yeah, people gonna hate on you, People gonna say no. People gonna tell you to go back in the box. But you know what? F that, man. Go have fun with your life. Like, go take a day to experience golfing. Like, we had the young kid, Colton Hiller, now 2028 kid, blowing up, awesome kid, awesome family. Him and I connect just from, hey man, you going golfing? Can you show me this? Can you show me that? Like, I'm learning how to golf, and he's
Yeah.
an adamant golfer, right? And most people wouldn't know that, and it's like we spend time discussing golf, right? And I'll end up on Netflix watching the golf show, So I just think that one of my struggles has been, hey man, how do you not let people label you, just this while you're great at that,
Yeah.
right? It sounds nuts, but that's the mental,
Yeah.
warfare that you're gonna go through in this space.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you live with yourself and all the noise and all the voices outside of that or whatever when you get home. And I think that's kind of like knowing your identity. And your identity could be a combination of a lot of different things. And so, like yourself, like you're saying, you're setting an example by writing books. Like, who would have thought the basketball guy's going to write a book, right? You know, because they think, oh, we're all basketball coaches. They just care about winning. They just care about stomping on the floor and yelling at kids or whatever, right? Coach, it's really important to make sure these kids are well rounded, right? And we have to look at ourselves and say, am I well rounded? Am I showing these kids the whole menu? Because if not, I'm selling them short. Because like I know, Coach, there's a lot of different aspects to this game. Once you get out of it in high school, yeah, and then especially in college, once you leave college, because most of these kids, they're not going to go pro. The majority of them are not, but they're going to have a love for the game still, and maybe they don't want to coach. So what else can you do? You can be an ops, you can be part of the athletic director crew, because they have different athletic directors for everything now. Being a GM, that's opened up. So there's all kinds of things, and I think showing them the whole menu is what you're talking about, and
Yeah.
giving them an aspect of life, like saying, "Hey, look, be well rounded. Don't just pithole yourself." And like you're saying for yourself too, like, what do you mean I have to just stick with this? I'm getting soft because of that. Like, no, I am who I am, for, like you said, for better or for worse. Take it or
Yeah.
leave it. And if you
Yeah.
got something to say all the time about it, then just leave it, right? And so I
I
think
mean, I
that's
think I think one of the best things that's happened in the journey of the book, the first book, Our PSA,
yeah.
we were able to. I mean, we sold 10,000 copies, right? I say
Well,
we because it's obviously a group effort amongst us as a unit. But one of the things I always laughed at is, like, we would go to the airport, and we were fortunate enough to, like, give out the book to people in the airport. Obviously free, no charge, and I would let the kids see, like, hey, you go give out. You take two, you take two, you take two, and we'll walk around, and, like, they would see people say no, thank you, right? No, I'll pass on it. No, thank you. Obviously, without even giving it a shot, no problem. But the more the story was like, I wanted them to see me accept no thank you, or I'm
yeah,
okay. Just hear the word no. But then I also wanted them to see, like, hey man, you gotta have some fight, you gotta have some grit, you gotta have some fortitude to this. Like, you might hear two no's and three yeses. Like, you don't know when the next yes is coming. So, like, the book became all these different experiments within our own ecosystem. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
people didn't see that type of stuff that's going on, but it also taught them entrepreneurship. Like, hey man, whether you into music or whether you into art or whether you into fashion, like, at some point you're gonna have to convince some people to give you a shot at whatever it is you're trying to get a shot at, and you're
yeah,
gonna have to get out your comfort zone and request that these people come and assist and purchase and everything that comes with that. You got to be willing to hear no and stand tall on it. You know what I mean? So I thought it was dope for them to see me, especially, like, in my position. They don't see the word no happen a ton towards me. Behind,
yeah,
it happens behind the scenes, but they don't see it in front,
yeah,
live and in person. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
for them to see that happen, and rejection or whatever the case may be, and see me still stand tall and my attitude is the same, I thought it was a good lesson for those guys as they go forward in whatever the journeys is going to be. Even if it's, hey man, I got cut from a G League team and now I want to go overseas or whatever, you can keep fighting. You know what I mean? So, like I said, it's not just the physical book; it's the lessons that come just around that information, around that content, around that piece of material object.
yeah. No, you're saying you got to bet on yourself and believe in yourself. And if you're not going to advocate for yourself, who else is, right? I
Oh
mean, that's
yeah,
the reality. You can't expect people to be hyped up about what you're doing if you're
yeah.
not. And if they can see that the winds and the storms that come won't blow you down. You get right back up. You bend, but you don't break, and you still go at it. Man, you're gonna have some success. It just takes. I mean, I've seen it before in my career. It just takes one stretch of success to change everything.
Mm.
You change the scope of how you look in the mirror and how you see yourself too. And so
Yeah.
where people say no, 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 thanks, it just takes one person saying thank you that's made a difference, and then
Yep.
that's it. You launch a rocket, and then that's it's the ball game from that perspective, and then you move to the next level. So that's
Yes,
great
sir.
stuff, Coach. I really appreciate you saying that because helping these kids to understand rejection is the hardest thing for them. If they don't
Yeah.
get the likes and they don't get the retweets and they don't, man, it's hard for them. They can't understand it. When the comment section isn't blowing them up and gassing them up, they're having a hard time. And so once they can learn to break through that sphere, then man,
Yeah.
they can be successful. So
Yes,
that's
sir.
fantastic. So now I want to ask you about what you consider success because you've had a lot of success and you've been a part of a lot of young men's journey from college to the league to, like you said, overseas, things of that nature. What do you consider success? Because in entry 14, you talk about the sneaker deal, right? And everybody, man, everybody wants to be put on, right? Everybody wants to get the new Kobe's or
Yeah.
whatever drops, right? They want
Yeah.
to be part of that, get that EYBL basketball on the back or on the tongue, right?
Mm.
Everybody wants that. But I like what you said about that process of success is like you'll make mistakes. You'll
Yeah.
make mistakes. And understanding, like you're talking about the kids and how you modeled rejection and things of that nature. I want you to tell me, Coach, what do you consider success?
Yeah. I mean, just first and foremost, when it comes to these kids, I think success is just getting everybody to school or into a craft that they want to be in. If they choose not to go to college, you know what I mean? Cause what is it you want to do professionally, or do you want to do something outside of academics? How can we help you do that? I think first and foremost, that's our thing. Like, hey, we're gonna make sure everybody get to school, mostly get to school for free.
Yeah,
Um, that's a big thing. The wins and the losses, like it might sound crazy. Like I'm not one to, hey, I'm counting how many wins, how many losses outside of qualifying for that year to Peace Jam, right? I'm not one to keep track of, hey, we beat this team 5 times versus this team 3 times. Like we lost to them 4 times. I'm not into that. That's just me personally. But
yeah,
the success is seeing these guys morph into men, right? Where you watching these guys get master's degrees, watching these guys, come out and get real life jobs, become fathers, right? Become husbands, become good, upstanding citizens. And I think that the next stage of that is how do they get through that journey and then find a way to watch them help others, right? Like I'm watching some of our guys working in the NBA front office right now. I'm watching some of these guys, run training, businesses. I'm watching some of them run security businesses. I'm watching these guys like get into academics and become professors and stuff. So getting older, you gotta have the standstill and the long term mindset to let it morph into it. But my success has always been how I'm judging myself, how we judge our program is, hey, at the end of the year, how many of these guys, if it's 10 girls on the team, how many went to school for free? 10 for
yeah,
10, cool, that was successful. Did you make on from a basketball lens? Did you make peace jams? Did you make a run? How are you guys viewed? How do you play the game? All of that stuff equals into it. But personal success for me is gonna always, be accounted by, hey, my time went into these 10 kids, they got to college, and what are they doing when they get to college, right? Not just
yeah,
what are they doing on the court, like what kind of classes are they taking? Are they experimenting? Are they taking pottery? Are they learning different things? So I mean, and that obviously leads across the grades. Are you guys doing well academically? Are you becoming good people? Are you growing, right? Like
right,
taking a kid that's a little rough around the edges and how's he getting better month to month, year to year, and watching him at the finish line as he prepared to go away to said university, right? So it sounds, cookie cutter, but like for me, that success from that standpoint is going to be, based on the kids. It's not going to be just, hey, how many make down All Americans, how many pros. Like just being honest, like once you get a few of those things to happen, then you check that box and there's no excitement to it anymore, right? You just got a number that went up. It's not that big a deal to me. But seeing what guys can become as men as they get older, right? There's some guys who weren't necessarily playing for us, but they were around the program, and now they built relationships, and now these guys are running their own camps. They're becoming better fathers. They're coming to ask questions about that. They're utilizing the resources to help their community. Like that stuff is dope to me. Where it's like, hey, you can have this product, but what do you do with it? It's not just, hey, use it to wear 89 pair of sneakers in 90 days. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you have to use it in the right way. But yeah, just seeing my older guys, getting married and seeing those guys be connected to each other, like especially the 2014 class. That was like our first class. I watched those guys from close and I watched them from afar. Just watch them stay connected and support each other in their journeys, right? Guys are
Yeah.
playing all over the place or not playing, but then they're doing all these different things where you can feel like, wow, you know what? Damn, at 26, I gave away a lot of my time and a lot of partying, a lot of hanging out, but it was worth it when you watch that kid or them men at that point become that. And one of the most priceless things that's been happening recently is like, as they've gotten older, those guys have come back and was like, hey man, I can't believe you were doing this for us at this time of your life at that age. Because
Yeah.
now that I'm walking that walk, I know how difficult that is, right?
Yeah.
Like what you were sacrificing. So, I mean, like I said, it's the success every on court is, hey man, let's get to this Peach Jam, all the grades. We want to have a program, not a team.
Yeah.
Um, and then off the court is let's get everybody to school, and their parents are cool because they going to school, they don't have that debt. And then long term is what do you do with these opportunities and watch it happen and assist in it happening, and that's to me successful, like creating more like minded people that are trying to do right by the world.
Yeah. No, free schooling, man. That's it.
Yeah,
You're working with these kids, free schooling. That's got to be the mindset. I think from the grassroots and even the high school coach, that's coaching that level of a player. That wouldn't be for every player, but at that level,
yeah,
when you got those type of kids, you just think, okay, post secondary education is super important. How do we get it for free? Let's use basketball. Don't let it use you because
yeah.
it could use you really bad and you wind up broken and busted, can't even walk right,
Yes,
popping
sir.
everywhere you go, sounding like the 4th of July while you're walking, stuff like that. And so
Exactly.
another point I want to make about that entry 14, when you talk about the sneaker deal in your book, people would think, oh man, you got to network with the right people. You got to go talk to Tony Dorado and whoever, right? And what it really comes down is what I love how you put it, Coach. You said the academic standards, building a strong staff, and being professional, not just looking the part, but actually being the part and being disciplined and having discipline in your program. Like you said, not building a team, but building a program.
Hmm.
It's important for people to understand, like that's how your program was built, and that's how you've had the success you have. And if you want to kind of jump on that same flow, you should probably dig into it and do the same thing. So I really appreciated that in entry 14 about the sneaker deal, because I'm sure people were like, can't wait till this guy starts talking about this and that. He's going to network and whatever, right? It takes a lot of hard work to get into those spaces and get those people's attention. You got to win and you got to do things right. Otherwise, you're just a flake and you'll be here one day, gone tomorrow, right? Just the
I
truth.
mean, and that was the biggest thing. I knew people wanted to, like, that would be somebody's number one question, like how I get a sneaker deal. But
Yeah.
it's just like, if you start operating as if you do have a sneaker deal and be example of that, like,
Yeah.
hey man, does every kid have the same backpack on, and how do we place our backpacks? What's the best practice of placing our backpacks across the bench, right? What is the best practice for how we operate in the airport? If you function like that, when you get the deal, it wouldn't be new to you. It'd just be a different brand, right?
Yeah.
Like you guys, I think the biggest thing is, like you said, hey man, you can get the deal, but here's the other 37 things that come with the deal, right? Come with the ability to run a successful program, because just having a deal doesn't eliminate all of the stuff that you expected to do. So
Yeah.
until the deal comes, start practicing all these other things, start getting better at these things. So when it comes, you're able to sustain it, right? Like
Yeah.
people understand it's not just about, hey, I got a sneaker deal for 2 years or 1 year or 6 months. And how do you stay in the room? And it's not just your own court, because everyone's going to go through some up and down seasons. Your market
Yeah.
gets a little weaker. Guys are not, as good. Coaching isn't as good. Whatever happens, you're gonna have some down seasons. But the staying power is gonna come in your infrastructure and your culture, and just being able to show them, like, even though we might not win 20 games this season, look at how my kids operate. Look at how we operate. Look at how what we're doing. We're still getting those guys to school and all of the things that come with it. So being able to sustain the hard times it starts with your roots and your foundation. Don't just
Yeah.
stand there waiting on, hey, I just need to randomly walk into the next top 5 kid and then they're gonna give me a deal. The deal's
Yeah.
not gonna last long.
Yeah.
So life after that kid is very important. Prepare for when that kid is leaving.
Yeah. And even one of the things you talk about, you said about that top five kid that it was great. Like right from the beginning, you talked about how like don't let those type of players say, hey, then the parents say, hey, the only way we'll get on this team is if you bring their friend along. The only way he'll sign is if you get him into this camp or that camp. Like there's a way to handle the top five guy and then the last guy on the bench. I think that's so important to when I read that book, it was just like, man, it gives you a whole, like you're talking about backpacks, details, all those things, because the details do matter to people who are watching from the outside. From the internal, from whoever's in the house with you, y'all know what y'all know. But from the
Hmm.
outside looking in, if you got the details covered and people are seeing that, maybe you do have some things that need to be worked on in house, but from the outside it looks like a gem. And so
Yeah.
I appreciated that about the book. Now I want to ask you about mentorship, Coach, because in entry three you talk about the handler and the mentor, right? Starting there on entry three, and I think that's so important because even high school coaches were coaching, maybe a top 150. Some people get that, or just a kid who regionally or locally is getting recruited pretty hard. Uh, how do you deal with mentors and handlers, Coach? Like when you talk about how important is that to you for what you do and for coaching?
Yeah, man. I mean, first and foremost, shout out Sean Hicks, one of my late great best friends. That entry is kind of like geared directly towards him, the mentor, right? Like watching him deal with and assist in James Booknight's journey from high school all the way through. Just seeing how he was involved with, hey man, his day to day like nutrition, academics, his mental state, his family structure, keeping his family involved, just everything you can think of. It was from a purity. I love dealing with mentors because I think we're both trying to accomplish the same thing. We're both trying to help this young man, or in the female space, they're going to be trying to help these young women, get to the next chapter of their lives. But they're also going to think holistically about, hey, how does this affect this, right? It's not just, hey, he's trying to hoop, put him on the court, let him run around. I don't care if you win, lose, or draw. They're trying to think about, hey man, tomorrow, I want to make sure he gets to the airport on time, and Monday I want to make sure he gets to school on time, and this is where he is academically in this class. How do we collaborate together, right? Like I think the mentorship, when it's really good, is how do you use the resources both parties have to work together to make the best version of this young man or woman at that time. It's done from a purity of everything should be about the kid, right?
Right.
Versus it's not just about the program. It's not just about the adult that's helping lead them. They're obviously still, acting as a liaison for the family if they can't be around all the time. But the family trusting them to make these conscious decisions, and they're keeping the family in the loop to the best of their ability and whatever that journey is. But if they're there to assist in the right things and not just, hey, I'm trying to quote unquote leech on to the situation. So I have no issues dealing with mentors. I think it's dope. I've had good mentors in my life, right? I
Yeah.
see when it works. A lot of these young men, they have really good mentors in their life too, whether it's just basketball, whether it's academic, whether it's for your mental and your anxiety and all of that type of stuff. Everybody plays a different role, and you also see the parents getting mentorship throughout the process, whether it's internally with other parents, whether it's outward trying to figure this process out. I mean, because it's a very complicated space, so everyone's trying to figure it out. So I'm cool, I'm comfortable. I think I'm able to do well with that. With the handlers, for me personally, I'm like, listen, man, we could sit down, we could break this thing down, and I'll tell you the 99 things that I'm gonna do, and this program is gonna do for kid X. Now you can sit here and tell me the other, 50 things you're gonna do, but 9 times out of 10, you're gonna end up showing me 1 or 2 things that you're gonna do. So if we
Yeah.
can have a respect for each other, and knowing, hey, I'm heavy lifting, we're heavy lifting as a program. The high school is heavy lifting. There's a lot of things that's happening for this kid that you're not necessarily having to be responsible for, and that's cool, right? Let's just have a common courtesy of mutual respect. Let's figure out how to get what's best for this kid, but let's not abuse the situation, right? Let's not, bombard the scenario and just make it all about, whether it's her as a handler or him as a handler. Let's not just make it about you. I don't deal well with that. I don't do well with strong arming. I think that once we have these things that we can both look at, and it could just be a one-on-one conversation, if that makes them feel comfortable, to say, hey, these are the things I'm going to be responsible for. Like, I'm going to be responsible for making sure the academics is good, the tutoring is good. He's getting to and from the airport. He's eating well, sleeping well, all of these things. He's in a nice school, good dorms. You
Yeah.
know, then it's just like, all right, well, what are you exactly handling? And I'm not going to bring that to the kid. Obviously, that's not my business. But adult to adult, what exactly do you feel like you're handling? And I think once someone understands our infrastructure and how we move on the road, they'll see like, oh, these kids are really well taken care of. They're eating 3 meals a day on the courtesy of the program. They're flying, they in vans, they getting, they're eating the right things. They're not just eating fast food. Like, holistically, they're fine. So then you can make the choice. Do you want to come along, or do you want to just trust the process of what we're doing? So it makes it a little bit easier to me, quote unquote, to the handler. Um, and we just get a mutual respect, right? Like, I get it. It's your kid. You can do whatever you want to do with him. And like I said, with the females, same thing. But while he's in this program, we're trying to do the best we can do to position him to be the most valuable person and player that he can be. And then, it's a baton thing. Like, we get you to this level, and we pass the baton back to the adults that are in charge of the space.
Yeah, man, that was the way you broke that down was like you just read the book to me. That from that portion, you really broke it down, almost to the T what you wrote in your book, and I think it's really important to hear because a lot of people sometimes don't know how to deal with the handler, and it's always like there's this chasm that's between the coach, the director, and the handler, when in reality you can work together and you can define roles. And when you
Hmm.
define roles and what the expectations are, then you move forward to figure out whether it's a good fit or not, because fit matters. Fit
Yep.
doesn't just matter with college decisions. Fit matters with high school, with AU, with whatever club you're going to. All that matters. So I think that the way you eloquently put it, man, it really helps people to understand. It helped me to understand better. And I
Yeah.
thought I kind of had a handle on it, but I see it now much better. Now, I want to ask you, Coach, about your book. Here are the answers, man. Just a great book. Here, I'm going to keep talking about it. I mean, I can't recommend it enough to those out there who are working with youth and with programs and things of that nature. Even high school coaches can learn from it, exponentially get growth from it. But I want to ask you, what do you hope to accomplish with your book, Coach?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, man. I mean, I think with this book, I want to be able to bring respectability to the grassroots and to the high schools and to the trainers and everybody, all adults that's in this space. Right? I think I've always watched and heard comments and people say, "Oh, all they do is roll out the ball, or it's just arguments and it's just chaos and it's this jungle." And it's like, yeah, but I think once you're able to go through this literature and see all the, like you said, the 45, 46, whatever amount of entries that's in it, you're able to see all of the different elements that are being played out, right? That's important. Like the art of saying thank you, and how do you visit, how do you go on a high school visit, and how do you, close out your college recruitment. Like, I think especially directors and coaches that are grinding every single day with these kids, I want them to get the respect that they deserve, right? And I think if they see the book, read the book, pass it along, especially the people that aren't 100% in this field, they're going to have a different perspective of what we do daily, right? It's not just what you see Saturday, Sunday when we jump off a plane or a van and play some basketball. It's everything that happened beforehand. How are you dealing with the kid that's struggling academically and needs to go to summer school, and that discipline? How do you deal with the kid that's trying to figure out how to transfer from one college to the next? We holistically, this is these seats that we occupy are heavy and difficult. It's not just the basketball. So I would love for this book to be the one thing that brings respectability and not drama to the culture, right? And for
Yeah,
me, it's they tell you to try to leave something better than when you found it. I think this is part of my journey of when I do exit, I want to leave this space better in some form or fashion for myself. I can look in the mirror and say, hey, I tried to do these interviews. I tried to do these podcasts. I tried to talk to people. I tried the written form. I tried the audio form. I tried different ways of giving the information because it wasn't just handed to me. And for $20, you get a lot of information and a lot of conversations, and multiple people are buying this book and talking about it and fighting through it, especially with people that are like, hey, oh, I thought grassroots was just this, or I thought the high school coach was this. It's like the art of the high school coach and the grassroots coach working together versus against each other and the egos that come with that, right? So my major goal is to make this the book that, like you said, people can refer back to when they
Yeah.
just need an idea on a subject base that's in this space. The biggest goal is, hey, how do we bring respectability to this space and utilizing this literature to open up the eyes to people to say, no, 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 no. There's a lot more elements than what you assume is happening, right? Before you watch them on the court. Because most people come, even if you look at something like Peach Jam, they'll come and watch Peach Jam, but they didn't know the 350 days prior to that Peach Jam, right?
Yeah.
And what goes on in said kid's life or said adult's life, and how a lot of collaborations have to happen on a daily basis. I just I want to bring enlightenment to the space. I want to bring joy to it. I want to bring, like I said, respect. And I think when we get past the competition of, PSA versus whoever, I think more people would be like, you know what, let me pick that book up and let me see what they're talking about and see if there's something in there. And then there's lessons for everybody, including myself, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not telling you our practices are the best. I'm just telling you some of the practices that I've seen work, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to take it, but like I said, big lens, this can be the book that if you get into grassroots, hey man, you're starting a program, you're in a program, you're trying to, elevate your program for in different areas. Go to this book real quick. Go to entry such and such, right? Where somebody's like, "Oh man, I'm dealing with this handler." Hey man, there's a book out. You should go and read that entry, right? I want this to be that. Like we don't have, in a sense, basketball grassroots books. We just have people commenting on the space. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
turn
Yeah.
on you turn on ESPN or something, and they're like, yeah, grassroots is this, and that's what.
Yeah.
But they don't walk it every day. So like people like yourself, and like you said, Randolph Childress, that's been in it, been in the high school, the college, high school. We're all intertwining at this point, right? And how do we all have the respect that we deserve? I wish this book was able to do its part to bring some respect to this, more respect to this space for the parents, for the kids, for the adults, for the trainers. This is everybody. This is trainers, this is videographers. Like they play a crucial role. The ranking people, the media, crucial roles. So everybody deserves their flowers. And I hope that this is the book that they always refer to be like, hey man, listen, go pick that up. And then, it takes some time for people to get past the competition or, oh, that's a PSA book. It's not a PSA book. It's
No.
a grassroots high school, like I said, basketball people. If you're in this space, I really encourage you to get it. And I tell people, if you get it and you paid your $20, I'm standing on it. If it's not good, if you don't find something that you thought was useful, you can find my number, and I'm going to send you back the $20. Like that's the one thing I swear. Like I'm not worried about it. I think it's going to be dope. I'm not worried about the sales or anything like that. It's just a matter of how quick can we get it in hands and let people discuss it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think like you talked about the competition, like once those who view you as the other party, the other side, can really come to understand, like, look, some of my biggest competition, I'm learning from now. After we
Oh,
sit down, we talk, and I'm learning, and they're learning. Iron sharpens iron is the mindset.
yeah.
And everything you talked about, even like entry 17, you talk about practice time, not
Mm-hmm.
just practices, best practices, but even how to practice, how to fundraise in entry 15, all these things that I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out, maybe not looking at it and saying, I'm going to copy that and paste it here,
Yeah.
but I'm going to take this or that from each entry and say, I can implement that into what I do and still have my fingerprints on it and still be able to make it mine, have it my flair, my touch on things.
Yeah.
And
Just
because
know
I
that
remember,
it's something. Just
yeah,
know it's something you're gonna have to deal with, right?
yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
going to have to
heads up.
address fundraising and all these different things throughout this journey. Like you said, I want to get a deal. Cool. You're gonna have to address fundraising. You're gonna have to address how to deal with a budget. You're gonna have to address practice time. So it's giving you a bunch of elements that you're gonna need when you decide to run these programs, whether it's
Yeah.
high school or AAU. And then I'm sure you can speak to other people, and it's another 45 entries that's available. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No, you say it's not a PSA book. It isn't. It's I'm down in San Antonio, Texas, and I coach at Holy Cross Catholic High School here in San Antonio. It's going to be a book for us and how
Appreciate it.
I run my program. You know what I'm saying? Uh, I think that's what people have to get over sometimes is they read a book because they're like, oh, the author does this or does that, but it's like it's what the wisdom in there. It's not what they do, it's how they did it. And learning from that. Like I said, when I was a kid, my dad was a mechanic, right? So we go to the local auto parts store and there was a book about how to work on a certain car. And we go get
Mm,
that book and he read through it. I need that part, I need that part, I need that part. And then he change it up. It's an electrical situation. I'll fix it there and there. But he had a book to reference,
yeah.
and that's what I see this book as. And I think that's
Man,
what it's going to accomplish. And it accomplished that for me. And so I
man,
think
prayer hands.
it'll move
That would
people like that. So, Coach, now I want to ask you about because we're talking about preparing the next generation of
yeah.
coaches because that's what we're doing with this book. And
Yes,
we keep
sir.
and in entry one, you have all these other coaches that have come alongside you that decided to enter to have these their own entries of what they think about and lessons that they've learned from the game and their advice. So it's like it's not all Munch Williams through the whole book.
Nah.
People to understand that. Like there's reputable people. My guy Don Showalter it forwards the book. And if
So,
Don Showalter's involved, you know it's legit. So at the end of the day, that's what I want to convey. But preparation for the next generation is so important. How do you view that for the next wave of directors and coaches in, like you said, the grassroots space that needs that polishing in some spaces? Because there's a lot of bad actors. Unfortunately, there's more bad actors than there are good actors. How do you see that as far as the next generation of coaches and working with them?
yeah, man. I think I'm surrounded by a lot of dope programs, and especially in my market, you watch those guys grow. You watch their leaders take serious time to help their coaches go to clinics, go to workshops, go watch high school practices, go watch college practices, go attend an NBA practice, just open up the doors, um, for these guys to be able to get these experiences they want, right? And if it's coaching you want to be in, like shout out Antoine Harris, like when I was younger coming up, he was with Howard Pulley, he's with us now. I would call him and say, hey man, talk to me about that set you ran, right? Like being able to cross collaborate with people across the country to learn, different sets you want, different defenses, different reads, just different jargon. So I think the best thing we can do as leaders is constantly find out what the next generation, what their why is, what their strengths are, what they consider their weaknesses, and how do you support those things that they can get better at, right? And make it be in a space that's healthy. Like, are you meeting with these guys, once a month or once every 2 weeks to discuss where they currently are and what they need help on, and yourself, right? Like, how do you keep growing? You can't be someone that's not growing but trying to, can get to that same stage. So as you know, Coach A is growing, I need to be growing too. So
Yeah,
I think for me, it's always been, hey, what do you need help with? How can we help? What are the resources we have internally? What are the resources we have with our connections, our stress? I'll stretch it. We'll stretch it out into our network base, but also giving them a lot of different versatility, like watching film with them to discuss things that they might see versus what you might see. Having them go with you to visit a prep school and learn that, how do you shake hands? How do you walk around? How do you tour this place? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? Just giving them some level of a day in the life of the things that they might not see. Like, going to a storage unit and grabbing the product and saying, all right, well, here's the product. Explain to me what you would do with said product and how would you give it out timeline wise, or this kid versus that kid. So like allowing them to see a lot of different spaces of not just being a coach, but being a leader.
yeah,
And getting them in contact with other people that are experts at their field or really passionate about that space, right?
yeah,
Like you into, hey, I want to get into social media, then I need to figure out how to get you next to someone that I think is elite at social media.
yeah,
But also empowering these guys. Like, you got to consistently try the best to empower them while the success is still happening, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't put them in positions to fail, but also put them in positions where they could attempt to grow. But like I said, that stuff can go on and on. But I mean, it starts with your ego. It's not about you. It's not about, like, when people say, "Oh, Munch, Munch, Munch," I'm like, nah, it's the people around me. It's the other adults. I can't do all of this stuff myself. I could do my part, but there's a lot of moving things, and it's about them. Or you say the word "we" a lot, or "us," or team, or family versus staff, and it's not that constant energy of, getting your ego out the way, not making it about you. And these people are sacrificing real life time. To what you said before, you can't get the time back, and how do you reward them for the time they cannot get back?
Yeah.
That's by saying, hey, whatever your needs are, whatever your why is, let's discuss it. Let's try to figure it out. I'm not great at it, but I'll try to be good at it. And you got to consistently tap in. Change. People change. I change.
Yeah.
Change. Every 6 months, 3, 4 months, you got to, hey, man, you still want to get into construction? You still want to get into this? And then for us, any opportunities that come across my table, posted in the group chat, hey, anybody interested in doing this? This came across our table. Just allowing them to be able to have everything. They want to work camps, try to get them in the camps they want to work in. They want to get into training, try to get them in places that they can showcase their talent for training. Just get out the way at times. Like, set it up and get out the way. Let them have the experience. Be unselfish.
Yeah. Almost like my network is your network to a degree.
A
And
hundred
that-
percent.
and
A
that's
hundred percent.
that's
It's not
really
even mine. It's ours. Like, we
yeah,
all
yeah,
earned
yeah,
it. You know what I mean? It's not mine. This is everything that's been accomplished has been because of collectively the whole group.
yeah,
So our
yeah,
network,
yeah,
PSA, and hold it down like that, right? Like,
yeah,
don't mess it up for
yeah.
everybody.
Because you're not, like we learned in 2020 when everything shut down. We're nothing without these kids.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows who we
Literally.
are. We're just yelling in the gym because we had nobody to coach. And
Yep.
so we learned a real hard lesson as coaches who had egos, because sometimes your egos will get you to where you're at, and
Yeah.
as long as you keep it in check, right? But that
That-
ego, like, well, gotta go training, gotta go do this. You couldn't. So you learn really quick how important those kids were, those people were, those parents, even everybody involved was. So yeah, I get it completely. When you say it's our network, yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Completely true. Now, I want to ask you about yourself as far as the lessons that you've learned about yourself throughout your career, Coach. What were some of the key things that you've learned about yourself throughout your career?
Yeah, man. I think the number one thing for me is I'm resilient, strong. I'm growing. I'm I'm in the process of shedding bad skin and trying to get new skin.
Wow.
I'm surrounded by greatness and the individuals that I'm around. I'm mentally tough. What I mean, I have a will. I have a desire. I have things that are inside of me that come from my upbringing, especially from my mom. Um, I've had to learn that I'm surrounded by, like I said, some people that are always going to be there for me, and vice versa. I am, they say heavy's the head that wear the crown. If I'm also just a placeholder in this big, landscape of basketball. Like, whatever position I sit, someone else will sit there at some point in time and hopefully do great. So I'm humble. I've had to learn that you can't do all things at one time. I've learned when I work better, when I don't, and I'm not scared to bet on myself, and that comes from one of my close friends, Andre Charles. I'm hard headed and expedition learner. I learned that from one of my best friends, Justin Ware. So I'm a learner, right? I think that that's important to constantly be a learner. I've learned that I can tolerate but so much, and then my ego will kick in.
Yeah.
But I'm just growing. That's the one thing I want to be able to do. And I've made mistakes. I've done good. I've done bad. That's the nature of a human.
Yeah.
But I'm God fearing, and I think I'm becoming more of a versatile human being on a daily basis, and I'm learning my processes for all of the things that I need to accomplish while I'm here. Um, and I said I want to be one of the greatest humans to walk the planet, but I also want to be known for a plethora of different things that I was able to do while I was here. So most importantly, I learned that I'm resilient and I could take a lot of negativity and positivity at the same time.
Awesome, coach. You said a lot there because as you deal with a lot of people, you start learning throughout the years what you really why you do what you do, right? And you start figuring out who you are in those spaces, your identity, because everybody feels good about themselves when everything's going right.
Hmm.
Everybody's feeling good when everybody's showing love. But when those peaks and valleys come and you see those things and you start realizing, wow, I didn't know this about myself. I didn't realize that about myself. Like I knew that, like you talk about your mom. Like I knew my mom had that, but I didn't realize I'd become that.
Yeah.
Because then we'll do something and it reminds us of our mom, or you know what I mean. It comes back like
Yeah.
that's something my mom would say. It's something my mom would do, right? And you kind of take that approach. So that's great stuff, man. It really is good because it's deep and like you said, the respect that I think comes with what you're trying to do and with grassroots is to understand that the people who are involved, aren't just some cats like you said that are going to roll out the ball and watch things go. There are people who have dedicated their lives to this,
Mm.
that have invested money, sweat equity, actual money, time, everything. Put their family on the back burner at times for other people's kids, and I think that's what helps to bring more respect to the space too. Is when people see, who the directors are, who the coaches are, not as just like dudes trying to work their way up to the college level, NBA level themselves, but people who have a vested interest in kids who they're not related to. And I think that's kind of what we're all kind of trying to do in this space. Now, Coach, I want to ask you about your why. What is your why ultimately?
Yeah. I mean, you always start off with, hey man, you want to help your family, you want to help the people around you. You know, you go through those phases. Clearly, you keep that too. But my why today is honestly just trying to be able to control my hours daily as best I can, right? Like not have to answer to everybody or, someone telling you what to do for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Like, right now I'm just searching for space and time to experiment and explore the world, right? Explore life. Like, are you going to try pickleball? Are you going to try chess? Like, just right now, my thing is, like I said, I just want to be able to like have fun with whatever life expectancy I still have. All glory to God. Hopefully, he keeps me here for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, my why right now is to help others. Utilize the resources that we've earned across the landscape of people, and then ultimately, I'm able to breathe and find different pockets of time to just be a versatile person. That's where I'm at with it today.
Man, well, I pray long life and great health for you, brother, because I
Thank you.
think I think that's the scope of things that we got to speak that over our own lives. Because I don't know how many people are doing that for us, but we definitely got to speak it over ourselves. So I'm gonna give you that right there, man. Now, my last question is always about legacy, and maybe it's not like you're retiring in 2 years. You still got a long ways to go in this game, but
Never know.
what would you want to be said of you once your time in this game is all said and done?
Yeah, for me, I'll keep it short and simple, man. Like he helped a lot of people. Like, if you said thank you, that was great. And I truly, honestly appreciate it. Like it's valued. When it's all said and done, simplify it. He helped a lot of people on and off the court. Like I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Coach, I thank you for your time. I appreciate you so much, man, for taking the time, making the time on July 4th of
Yeah.
all times, man, to get together. Now, here again, I'll put the link in the description for your book, but it's called Here Are the Answers, a roadmap for navigating success in the business of you. There you go, right there. I got it.
So,
I got it right here too, brother.
there
Right
we
here.
go. Let's go,
Great
man.
read. I can't recommend it enough. And so here again, man, thank you for the time and taking the time to be with us today, man.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man. Hopefully everybody go on Amazon. Got me fired up on 4th of July. I'm gonna try to find 5 people to go send them some books to.
There you go.
Like you said, man, this has been a great interview, great content, great conversation, just
Sir.
positive energy to start the day off. And like I said, if we just pay it forward, we get it in hands, and then we'll see what happens with it. Maybe
Right.
2 years from now, we'll come back and be like, yeah, you know what? That did become what we said it was going to become,
Yeah.
right? Like I said, the first book sold 10,000 copies. I'm sure when we first dropped that book, no one thought it would sell 10,000 copies. So
Yeah.
we off and running. You know what I mean? We're gonna sell some more every day.
We'll convene on that next year when I'm in the city. I'll
Let's
find
do it.
you. We'll talk
Lunch
about it.
on me. Lunch
Yes,
on
sir.
me.
I
All right.
appreciate you, Coach.
All right, Mike. Be safe.